Good evening, everyone. If you would take your seats, please, we will get started. So welcome and good evening. My name is Rachel Weber, and I'm the chair of the Department of Urban Planning and Design at the GSD. A quick reminder that we have live captioning available. For those joining virtually, please click the closed captioning icon. And for our in-person audience, please use the QR code currently on screen. Please visit the AV booth upstairs if you need any assistance. Following tonight's celebration, I'd like you to join us tomorrow afternoon, for an afternoon of workshops to explore the design process behind RICA and lessons that it offers. Mass designers will be joined by an incredible lineup of GSD faculty, so we hope you'll come back to dive a little deeper. And then, on Friday and Saturday, please join us for the 5th Black in Design Conference, Black Roots Grounded and Growing Toward Collective Futures. Tickets are running low, so you should get yours today. And for more information about these events and others, if you would like to see the full lineup, please visit the GSD's GSD's website. And so, for tonight's event, which is one of the highest honors in the world for urban designers, the Veronica Rudge Green Prize. I should first say that Dean Sarah Whiting, who has been integral to the prize's success, is unable to be here with us tonight. She's on her way to Houston for the dedication ceremony of the new Ismaili Center, designed by our colleague Farshid Musavi, and the dean sends her sincere regrets that she could not be with us. My esteemed colleague, Professor Joan Busquets, will give the formal introduction and award to Mass, but let me take a few minutes to just set the stage for tonight's event. Hopefully you've all had the chance to take in the exhibition that showcases the campus of the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, or RICA, in the Drucker Gallery, or you will be able to do so during the reception. I urge you to look carefully at the different layers of this amazing project. The first time I walked through, what I noticed was the furniture. Mass designed and fabricated these chairs and tables out of sisal fiber with the help of Rwandan artists and cooperatives. Every time I pass by, I just want to sit down and have coffee or read a book, but the security guards give me a look. The second time I walked through, I was struck by the vast expanse of land that would be the eventual home of the RICA campus. RICA is sited in an isolated rural area that required serious infrastructure, water, electricity, and an access road to prep the land for construction. And then over the past few days, I've just been marveling at the design of the campus itself, the distinctive figure-8 building and the ones with the butterfly roofs, the inverted gables that are arrayed around courtyards, barns for livestock, agricultural processing facilities, and farming plots. The multiple layers of the campus add up to something that is so much more than a trade school. RICA is a living laboratory for the future of farming. Students at the school are learning sustainable agriculture practices, no-till farming, crop rotation, and continuous soil coverage, which will improve the fertility of the soil and help farmers adapt to climate change. The care and attention that went into the campus redefines farming as an inventive and forward-looking vocation for a country where over 50% of the population is under 20 years old. The campus was designed to reflect the very regenerative principles that the school teaches as part of its curriculum. It emphasizes water stewardship, local procurement, material reuse, and energy independence. The campus manages its water through natural filtration and reuse systems and runs on renewable energy from its own solar farm. RICA is designed to be carbon positive. Combined with long-term reforestation, the campus will eventually remove more carbon from the atmosphere than it emits. In many ways, the RICA campus reflects a profound optimism about the future of Africa and the future of our world. This future is one where sustainability is the organizing principle for both form and program, and where caring for the environment generates immediate, tangible rewards for those whose livelihoods depend on small-scale farming. In a nation still living within memory of a brutal civil war and sectarian violence, the presence of such a hopeful and healing endeavor is especially meaningful. It's really an amazing project on so many levels. So now I would like to turn the floor over to my colleague, Professor Joan Busquets, Martin Buxbaum Professor in Practice of Urban Planning and Design at the GSD, who chaired the Green Prize jury. Joan.
Thanks very much, Professor Weber, for this kind introduction. The distinguished jury was made up Hanif Kara, Young Kim, Dan Stubagar, Konyan Yu, and myself as chair, with the support of Priyambada and Young Yu. The jury studied 178 urban design projects across the globe, submitted by generous nominators. After evaluating projects of many different scales and ambition, we selected the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, to which I'll refer as RICA. We selected for its exceptional design quality, implementing a new archetype for urban design. The jury was particularly impressed by its impact on the reconfiguration of a peripheral site by means of a radical integration with its environment, as well as by the designer's capacity of deploy such a well-crafted construction process. Jury is excited to add the RICA project to the list as the 15th Veronica Rudge Green Prize in Urban Design, that, as Professor Weber was mentioning, probably is the most important recognition of achievement in this field of the urban design. The prize was established in 1986 to commemorate the Harvard University 350th anniversary. At the same time, that was the 50th anniversary of the Harvard School of Design. I would like to acknowledge the late Michael von Clem for his generosity in funding the prize, and we are honored to have his family here with us this evening. I would like to thank also Professor Peter Rowe and Professor Gerald McHugh for their task of initiating the prize at the GSD. The jury was enthusiastic about the RICA project, which led to a rich, provoking discussion and enjoyable process of working together and finalizing the selection. Nevertheless, very sadly, when the decision-making process has been completed and this event was being prepared, we were shocked to hear of passing of our beloved friend Konyan Yu in a plane crash in Brazil. He was dean at Beijing University and the founder of Turin Escape, a design firm specializing in landscape architecture, very active in China and a much valued collaborator with the GSD, where he earned his Doctor of Design in 1995. He was an incredible fellow jury member throughout the debate generated by this process. I could say that Kunyan was writing on the RICA project, and probably is, I would say, probably is the last article that he wrote after visiting the site in Rwanda. And that will be also published in the brochure that we are going to do here. Because of that, family and friends, please accept our most heartfelt condolences. May his soul rest in peace. Good rest his soul. To return to the jury discussion, I would now like to draw your attention to a few of the key issues of present-day urban sustainability and city design that the RICA project addresses and which are present in the exhibition outside. These issues will be discussed tomorrow afternoon during the workshops that are open to the GSD and visitors. I'd like to address some of the questions that I feel are important in this project. The project is located in the outskirts of Kigali, the capital of Rwanda after the independence. Presents a campus for the teaching and the research of sustainable agriculture that is central to the human survival. Its design addresses a natural-based solution, including the judicious control of water cycles and land erosion, among other physical issues. It integrates a research and experimental campus into an urban fabric that is growing around. RICA project can be considered a method or logic that integrates local conditions to ensure efficiency and to drive innovation into the territory. The project includes buildings and spaces in between that are designed to evolve. We have to keep in mind that 90% of the material in weight are sourced in Rwanda. The design of the building is conditioned by the availability of the materials and their adaptation to the climate of the place. Landscape is an integral part of the project. Nature is main organizer that define fields, productive plots, and wetlands. To sum up, RICA presents another way to be affordable and resilient. As a rapidly urbanizing continent, Africa does not simply follow global models. It also generates new models. And I think this is very important to keep in mind this capacity that we can learn from this project. Mass Design Group, represented here at the ceremony, sets a new standard for evaluating innovation in the field of urban design. It has earned the prize for the excellence of design and its commitment to experimentation, based on a constant negotiation between city officials and government departments, motivated designers and mobilized workers and citizens. RICA project shows precisely what is possible when design disciplines come together and take responsibility for their impact. When urban design is a very positive agency adapted to a changing world. On behalf of the Graduate School of Design and Harvard University, we award the 2025 Veronica Rudge Green Prize to Rwanda Institute for Conservative Agriculture, designed by Mass Design Groups, with its conglomeration of designers, directors, and its entire team. Please join me in celebrating this award with them.
Joan, do we have another photo? Thank you.
Good. There you go. I'll give the floor to Sierra Bainbridge, Alan Riggs, and Christian Benimana, representing the Mass Design Group. Okay. The floor is yours, please.
Thanks so much, Joan. Thanks, everybody. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues and friends, it's an honor to be here with you all. This ceremony celebrating the Rwanda Institute for Conservation and Agriculture being awarded the prestigious Veronica Rudge Green Prize in Urban Design. This recognition is far more than an acknowledgement of architectural or landscape excellence. It resonates deeply, underscoring the vital implications of this project's success for the future of the African continent and the world. The context for this achievement is critical. By 2050, demographic projections indicate that 1 in 4 people in the world will call Africa home. This establishes the continent as the unquestionable epicenter of global population growth and consequently global urban development. To accommodate this explosive growth, it is estimated that a staggering 50% of all worldwide construction activity between now and 2050 will take place in Africa as nations race to develop essential infrastructure, housing, and social amenities required for their rapidly expanding and overwhelmingly youthful population. Rwanda, right now, is the most densely populated nation on mainland Africa, with a current population density of over 500 people per square kilometer. We stand at a critical juncture. Rwanda confronts mounting systemic challenges, from land use and resource management to sanitation and housing. All of these stemming from this pace of rapid urbanization and intense pressure on our finite arable land. What RICA does, it represents a project that was initiated by the government of Rwanda's Ministry of Agriculture with the intent to educate tomorrow's agriculturalists and to make this a chosen profession of Rwanda's brightest and best. Looking forward, projecting decades ahead for a time when Rwanda could be food secure. But this challenge is not only Rwanda's challenge. This concern is global and grows more critical as climate change worsens, which we in the majority world will bear consequences a great deal of. The current challenges facing the continent should be viewed not merely as problems, but as a significant opportunity for innovation and systemic solutions. I would like to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to the distinguished jury members who recognize this transformative power of this project. Reflecting on the significance of this prize, my thoughts are drawn immediately to several illuminating conversations I was fortunate to have with the late Professor Konje during his visit to the project site in Rwanda. Our time with him was extraordinarily insightful and enriching. He conveyed a palpable sense of optimism for the continent's future, a vision deeply rooted in his groundbreaking sponge city concept, which champions ecological infrastructure over conventional gray solutions. He spoke with immense reverence about the essential work of farming and the life of a farmer, a subject of deep personal passion that profoundly informed his visionary approach as both an educator and as a practitioner. Gail Veronica Rudge, a friend of ours, an ecologist and a photographer of many of the images in the presentation you're going to see tonight and in the exhibit outside. As we worked on this project, he helped us to understand the connections between ecology and urbanism. He said, and I'm going to quote, "In Central Africa, where zoonotic diseases such as Ebola and emerging viruses pose significant threats, strengthening this framework is imperative. Deforestation, climate change, and urban sprawl have increased human-wildlife interactions, heightening health risks. Integrated policies that consider biodiversity, conservation, sustainable agriculture, and urban planning are essential for disease prevention and long-term resilience." RICA became a test of these ideas and how an institution could align food systems, biodiversity, and health into one coherent landscape of resilience. I am, and I'm sure all of us are looking forward to sharing more with you tomorrow during the workshops, for those that will make it. But for this evening, I will let my colleagues Alan and Sierra take us through some of the basics of the project. Thanks.
Before we continue on, I just also want to thank Joan and the jury. It has been fantastic getting to know you, the exhibitions team who made something that is completely overwhelming out in the hallway. It's really fantastic to see the project in this new light. And we see receiving this award as an intentional expansion of what urban design means, to show how even a rural project can model the systems of care, economy, and identity that define healthy cities. In ecological terms, a measure of species abundance has to do with a habitat that can support the highest rate and level of diversity. And a measure of habitat, while in continual oscillation, can be described as abundant when diverse populations are thriving in balance with each other. That was our goal, to design towards abundance. A campus that demonstrates how human life and natural systems can coexist in a state of mutual benefit. I will begin with a bird, the gray-crowned crane. It is one of the most beautiful species in East Africa, now endangered with fewer than 1,000 left in Rwanda. It is one of the most beautiful species. It roosts in the acacia trees in the evening and feeds in the papyrus wetlands throughout the day. When these systems are intact, you can hear it. A full soundscape of insects and birds, a functioning ecology. Where landscapes whose roots fix nitrogen, stabilize soil, and filter water before it reaches the lakes. Agricultural fields now push into the wetlands, erosion clouds the lakes, and productive soils are being lost faster than they can regenerate. When these systems cease to function, the landscape goes silent, and productivity decreases. While these images are specific to the lake and hillsides of Rwanda, the Rwanda Institute of Conservation Agriculture, this is indicative of what has happened across Rwanda for the past 30 years. Land has been cleared for farming, grazing, and firewood. The population has tripled in 50 years and is projected to double again, putting incredible pressure on the land. The question we faced was simple but urgent. How can one piece of land support twice as many people without destroying the systems that sustain it? Our approach began with One Health, the understanding that human, animal, and ecological health are inseparable. In fact, when we started this project, there actually wasn't a curriculum for the Rwanda Institute of Conservation Agriculture, and we used One Health to frame it, to create something to respond to with our design. And it was taken on by the university and is taught there today. It's evolving, but still there. It meant that organizing the campus so that healthy soils, clean water, and intact habitats were as central to productivity as irrigation and seed yield. In that way, the students' daily experiences become a living model of how the health of people and the health of the planet are one and the same. We also place the project within the global context of planetary boundaries, the limits that define a safe operating space for humanity. Our goal was to design within those limits, to stay inside the ecological envelope while still achieving growth, education, and economic development, amongst the other things. Together, these frameworks drove our decision-making, where to build, what to preserve, and how to try to use resources in balance. This is the same question facing our cities: how to grow within limits while regenerating what we depend upon. At RICA, we discovered that the site contained one of the last intact savanna woodlands outside of Rwanda's national parks. It was the crane's former habitat, a living reminder that agriculture, biodiversity, and human survival are completely intertwined. Through extensive mapping of soils and hydrology, we determined the highest and best use of each part of the site. Fertile soils were reserved for student farms, disturbed areas became building zones, and the intact savanna woodland, the area of greatest biodiversity and therefore greatest carbon sink, was left untouched. We reconnected it to the papyrus wetlands and the lake's riparian edge, letting ecological processes determine the spatial plan of the campus. Why does this matter in urban design? Because Rwanda is one of the most densely populated countries in Africa, but not in all cases urbanized. Due to traditions of land inheritance, people were spread evenly across the land. The same questions of density, infrastructure, and community identity apply here, just in a different form. RICA models a kind of rural urbanism, a networked, productive landscape where ecological function and economic life are interwoven. When you propagate a campus, you are not only instigating processes, you are also uplifting the species collected there. In this case, the campus is a research plot, a seed bank, an arboretum for agricultural collections, and a nursery for native species. With local partners, we propagated roughly 1 million native plants, starting from seed and cuttings collected on site. This choice matters. It preserves local genetics, accelerates ecological succession, and reduces transplant stress and irrigation needs. Students walk through these plant communities every day. The landscape is their first teacher. The act of planting became part of the curriculum, a living demonstration of regeneration. We designed the plant palette to catalyze future habitats. Early succession species repair the soil. Shade and framework trees establish structure. Flowering and fruiting species feed pollinators, bats, and birds. Every layer of planting was chosen to invite wildlife back, to turn a quiet site into a thriving multi-species campus. Already, insects, birds, and mammals have returned, and the soundscape has changed. Hopefully, the cranes will be there soon. The campus master plan integrates agriculture and ecology as one continuous system. Green strips of cropland alternate with conservation corridors, connecting papyrus wetlands to upland savanna. Stormwater moves through swales and retention ponds that double as teaching landscapes. Every feature serves a dual purpose: function and pedagogy, proliferation and restoration. Today, we're seeing the results: the return of pollinators, the proliferation of flora and fauna, and the rebirth of the soundscape. This is abundance made visible, not an abstract idea, but a measurable transformation of land and life. The landscape has become a teacher, a carbon sink, a habitat, a symbol of possibility. What RICA taught us was how to make these approaches work across disciplines, which Alan will expand upon.
Thanks, Sierra. Our task as the architects was to extend the intelligence of the landscape into the built form. Each building was sited and oriented to respond to the conditions, to the equatorial sun, long east-west axes that capture prevailing breezes and minimize heat gain. Butterfly roofs collect rainwater for irrigation and gray water use, turning every roof into a watershed. The stone plinths that the buildings sit upon reference the soil strata. The earthen walls and timber frames breathe with the climate. We wanted the buildings to feel grown from the land, not placed upon it. The structure of RICA is deliberately elemental. Stone foundations reference the act of removing stones from the soil in order to prep it for farming. Compressed earth walls and earthen bricks symbolize the importance of soil health in agriculture. Timber trusses represent the value-added product, the potential of fields like silviculture. And terracotta tile roofs fired locally reference that value-added product, taking the raw good, turning it into something more valuable. These materials are low carbon, renewable, and they're also part of Rwanda's vernacular memory. In a country where very few building materials are manufactured or produced, the alternative is importing goods from far away, shipped to Tanzania, trucked overland into the country. So this is both a sustainability argument, but one about economic development. These buildings show that a modern academic campus can be built with the same ecological influence that sustains its landscape. Halfway through construction, the original contractor became insolvent. This was also at the peak of the pandemic. Rather than pause, Chris Hardy and some of our other colleagues that are here today went to the laborers who were laid off that day with suitcases filled with cash to pay them out for their final payments and rehire them. Mass hired all 2,500 workers that same day and continued construction, navigating not only the complexity of the project, but also the pandemic. That decision turned a potential crisis into an opportunity for collective ownership. Because we controlled procurement, we could trace every material from extraction through installation, managing both the origin and the provenance of these materials as well as the ethics that were deployed along that whole value chain. It meant fair labor, more transparent supply chains. We engaged more than 85 cooperatives across Rwanda to produce all of the furniture and fixtures, from lighting to lampshades and ceramic fixtures as well. Products that could be encouraged through agriculture, like papyrus, sisal, and the use of banana waste materials, long and traditionally used for things like baskets and mats, found new life as architectural finishes and seating for Remy the cat now. This is architecture as infrastructure for human capacity. Working with artisans like Walaris, a boutique ceramicist who developed the artisanal tile that was used in certain parts of the project. Proof that beauty and equity can emerge from the same act of making. Every design decision becomes an economic, ecological, and pedagogical investment. From the hands that made the tiles to the policies those tiles would later inspire. Ultimately, 98% of the labor was sourced within 100 miles of the site. And as Joan said, over 60% of the materials came from within Rwanda. Basically, the main exceptions were the solar panels and the wastewater treatment plant. The technological systems just not available in the country. Stone and soil from the site itself were turned into bricks and rammed earth walls. Clay from nearby kilns turned into the terracotta, fired with agricultural waste. And timber from sustainably managed plantations and ironwork from regional fabricators. All told, this means that the majority of the $75 million it cost to build the project went into the local economy. By treating every decision, every material selection as a choice to invest in this place, we're able to make sure that the maximum value is delivered into the community that is being intended to serve. We measured embodied carbon for every system. This, in many cases, meant doing it ourselves. But because we had access to the whole supply chain, we could quantify each of these products. Conventional concrete and steel structures in East Africa average roughly double RICA's footprint. But through local sourcing and earthen materials, we cut that in half. Simple decisions like shifting from reinforced concrete foundations to stone, centuries-old methods that we no longer even consider, had radical impacts, as well as the earthen walls, and instead of imported steel and tin roofs, wood trusses and terracotta tile. The influence of RICA now extends far beyond its boundaries. We think of our work as happening in 3 stages. Research trying to understand the challenges and define the opportunity for design to intervene, pilot projects that can demonstrate what's possible, and then advocacy to bring that impact to scale, seeing the way that these examples and research can shift markets and influence policy. So one of our proudest accomplishments actually comes out of something adjacent to this project. The use of earthen construction had actually been outlawed under the building code because of risks of it being unsafely built in a place of steep hillsides with heavy rainfall and the potential for mudslides. When government officials visited the project and saw it deployed in this way, we were invited to be a part of a working group to work with the government and several other partners to develop this guide that you can see here about adobe earthen construction in the country, to actually change the building code and develop a handbook to guide people in safe construction. But these decisions also strengthen supply chains for sustainable forestry and ceramics, where we see people starting their own businesses. Just as in our first project that saw the volcanic stone walls of Butaro spread throughout the country, now building with earth is now much more common. You're seeing rammed earth walls in places as restaurants and boutique hotels, and including even the new airport. It also expanded curricula, merging conservation agriculture with material science, seeing building industry and building goods as one of the things that agriculture can actually contribute to. And most importantly, it proved that a large-scale academic institution can be off-grid, climate positive, and community built. This is a model for development in East Africa, but we hope also beyond. But ultimately, as hard as we work to reduce the environmental impact of our buildings, construction is inherently extractive. In order to not just minimize harm, but to restore and regenerate, we depend on landscapes. At RICA, 1,400 hectares of land creates space for conservation and regeneration. And the investment in planting over 1 million plants, building soil health, conserving the savanna woodland, and restoring the wetland marshes means we will offset all of the embodied carbon of construction by 2040. It's already net zero, so to speak, because it's producing its own energy. At that point, in 2040, it will actually become a carbon sink. We hope making RICA the first climate-positive campus ever built. Hanif Kara, GSD professor and one of the members of the Green Prize jury, said, "Holistic design that integrates systems thinking, technological innovation, and traditional knowledge reimagines the discipline itself." At RICA, those systems, ecological, social, material, and economic, are inseparable. If RICA can imagine the relationship between people and the land in rural Rwanda, what might it teach us about rebalancing the systems of cities globally? To seek abundance is to design for balance, ecological balance, social cohesion, and shared prosperity. We want to again say thank you to the GSD to the Green Prize jury, to Joan for leading this whole process, and of course to our many, many partners in Rwanda. And to the over 2,500 designers, over 125 people just on the architecture, engineering, landscape architecture team from Mass oversaw the design and construction of the project, as well as the builders and craftspeople who built this campus. This award honors not just a project, but a possibility. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Christian, Sierra, and Alan, for this sharp and rich presentation. I think that will make us eager to continue tomorrow in the workshops, because then we are going to be able to check and to ask you more individual questions about the way that the things can be done, can be applicable. I mean, these type of things are very important. That's the reason I like to remind the workshop session tomorrow. We're going to have like two, we call that A and B. The first one, and then we do a break in the middle, but the first one is going to be a more in-detail presentation of the project, and then the discussion with the respondent is going to be done for that. And then the second part of the first presentation is going to be by Professor Peter Rowe, talking about the trajectory of the Veronica Rudge Green Prize, to see how urban design is evolving, and then to understand also the logic of that. And the second part, the B, is going to be, don't miss that also, because it's going to be very, very important. Mm-hmm. The sessions are shorter in a way that then probably the dialogue could be quite vivid. Right now, I'd like to invite the audience to the reception in the Drucker Gallery, and then the possibility of visiting with us the exhibit around. Thank you very much.